This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
All right, welcome to the Ad Hoc Technology Committee for February 9th, 2022. We have guests from HOC Gas and Electric, and it would be South Hadley Electric as well, as represented as Fibersonic. Did I describe your title right?
That's right. South Hadley Electric has an internet fiber business called Fibersonic. So yes, you got it.
All right, so that's our main topic for this evening, so feel free to take it away.
Great. Thank you, Dan. Thank you to the committee members and Ed for the opportunity to share some information about us. I know that you've put this committee together to investigate fiber optics for the town of Southampton. I'll begin by introducing Tim Haas, who is right there. He's the Chief Information Officer of HOC Gas and Electric, and Bobby Liswell.
Nice to meet you.
Yep, thank you, Tim. And Bobby Liswell, who is the Fibersonic South Hadley Electric Telecommunications Manager.
Evening,
Myself, yep, sorry, Bob. And myself, I'm Sean Fitzgerald. I am the General Manager of South Hadley Electric and Fibersonic. And some interesting additional notes about me is that I am a resident of Southampton. Been here about 9 years. I am Zooming from work because of dependability issues with my internet service at my house. So I thought you might find that interesting. And also, prior to working for South Hadley Electric, I spent several years working for Westfield Gas and Electric, and I was one of the developers of Whip City Fiber and helped launch that project from inception, helped create the business structure that is in place today, and much of the team that's there. Very proud of that project. They're a great project, so happy to talk about that. Dan, do you want to share the presentation, or do you just want me to talk through it?
I can share the presentation. Just tell me when you want me to flip slides or whatever. So
sure.
Just give me a second to get it pulled up.
No problem.
Share screen. And just the full screen button. Where do they hide that? I bet Megan would know if you want to view it in full screen.
In PowerPoint, it's at the top in the ribbon.
Oh, slideshow. Maybe that's from beginning. Oh, not that. All right, so maybe this is as big as we get. I think this might be it.
There's also a PDF if you wanted to use it, Dan. I sent.
Oh.
You can try that.
Thank you.
No worries. I've run into that issue before, so sometimes PDF works a little better.
Honest, I know about the computers. I mean it.
Would it work if I shared my screen, Dan?
Oh yeah, I'm getting there. Just give me a minute.
Oh, no worries.
All right, now can you see it?
No.
I knew that.
You want me to give it a shot? Oh, now something's happening. There we go.
There you go.
Oh yeah. There we go.
Good job. Thank you, Dan.
Hey. Way to go, Dan.
Yeah.
So as you can see, South Hadley Electric Light Department and HOC Gas and Electric, we are partners. We offer a unique solution in that we are partners. Hoyok Gas and Electric has been providing fiber services since 1996. South Hadley Electric since 2006. We offer a full 1 gig symmetrical service to all customers in South Hadley, and Hoyok serves several other towns at this time. And we are also now working with Easthampton, as was announced today. You didn't see our name, but we've been working with them for the past year and a half to get them where they are. And we're now working on engineering and design work for them. Hoyok Gas and Electric is a border town to Southampton. We offer fiber connectivity as an extension, similar to what you heard from Westfield. We can basically do the same thing without, large investment, to get initial connectivity and initial fiber launch going. Hoyok Gas and Electric has been providing Southampton residents natural gas since 1986, so they have an established working relationship with Southampton. Next slide, please, Dan. Thank you. This chart really is to help you, get your mind around all the internet service provider things you need to accomplish to be an ISP. I'd say you're right now in the green bubble. You're doing your initial research. And just so you know, South Hadley Electric has been through this entire chart. We've had to make every one of these decisions and investments. We assessed our risk. We had to make a commitment. In your case, you would have to form a municipal light plant and get those votes to become a municipal light plant over the course of 2 years. And then you have all the other things like financial modeling and decisions on financing, and then selecting a project manager, someone like us or whoever, and then all these other things, poll applications, design, procurement for materials, and on and on. You have marketing, customer service, home installations, help desk services, network management. So what you get from your internet service provider is all of those blue bubbles, and actually some of the red bubbles as well, that we can assist with. And we've been doing that with the city of Easthampton. We help them through, assessing some of these things, and we're at the design phase with them. Very good. Next slide, please, Dan. So, Ed had mentioned to, discuss municipal light plants a little bit. So you may have heard some of this. However, I think it's good to hear. It's a legal, publicly owned structure under Mass General Law that allows you to operate utilities and allows municipalities to operate utilities. It allows you to build, operate, hire, partner with other municipal light plants like us to provide services such as broadband internet over fiber optic networks. It requires a 2/3 majority ballot vote at 2 town meetings, no more than 13 months apart. Next slide, please. Some of the municipal light plant fiber benefits you should consider is it allows you ownership and control over your town's broadband future, the quality of service you receive. It allows you to attract, retain your business customers and your residential tax base. It raises property values. It is the gold standard of broadband. The average family of 4 will need 2 gigs of symmetrical internet by 2030, according to Broadband Communities. And I know Southampton is a growing family community. I'm a prime example of that. My household constantly struggles with streaming and bandwidth issues, and keeping pace with that is going to become more difficult if investments aren't made to improve the plant in Southampton. And it also becomes a competitive issue for towns being able to retain their tax revenue. Becoming an MLP can provide you self-supporting revenues, which can ensure long-term stability for the town of Southampton. Next slide, please. Intergovernmental agreements, IGAs. This is a term you may or may not have heard, but it's a term we're using with Easthampton and other towns. It allows us to navigate complex bidding requirements and basically fast track projects. Because we're MLPs, we can sign agreements to work together without going through a formal bidding process. It's a huge advantage. It allows you to provide local services from MLPs like us with top-rated industry reliability and service statistics, which you can verify. Gives you cost savings by optimizing our shared resources. In our case, you would get 2 utilities working for you instead of 1. It's a pretty good benefit. It's been appealing to many other projects that are looking to launch, like Easthampton. And you get to leverage, operational expertise. In our case, 114 years of utility experience, construction. We have line crews, personnel, etc. And in HOC's case, millions of dollars in pre-existing network investments and resources that have been made. And it's become a proven business practice amongst MLPs, which reduces costs and results in superior service. And that's what you're seeing across Western Mass and Massachusetts right now. Is many are going towards the MLP model. Next slide, please. This is an important slide. I want to emphasize why us. What's the advantage to talking to someone like us? Hoyle Gas and Electric and South Hadley Electric, we believe, have an advantage in that Hoyle's serving 1,100 Southampton residential, municipal, business customers. I know they serve the school that my son goes to at Norris for gas. They're the current operator of the underground natural gas plant, utilities, easements, rights of way. One of the highest construction expenses in fiber optics is underground. We know that from our own project. So having an operator like Hoyle Gas and Electric with all of these easements, all of these existing plant is a huge benefit as you consider doing underground construction in your town for fiber optics. Can
you explain that a little more? Because I don't really understand what that means.
So when you go to site, for example, fiber optics in underground residential areas or businesses, it's advantageous to already have to know those areas, to have easements to those areas, to have engineering diagrams, have the knowledge of the town and where all this construction has already taken place. So you have information that you're not starting from scratch.
So does that mean in some parts of town you would be running the fiber underground? Is that what that's implying? Or?
Yeah, similar to what you've already heard is that if you have aerial plant, up in the air, we're going to go aerial. If you have underground plant, we're going to go underground. In my neighborhood, it's all underground, and there's all Hoyle Gas and Electric gas pipes there. So that would have to go underground, but Hoyle Gas and Electric has that knowledge of that neighborhood, and it just creates a little more additional information. And
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm getting it now. So yeah, it matches where the parts of town that have underground piping and wiring. That's where the fiber would be underground. Otherwise, it would be attached to the telephone poles, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
You got it. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. No worries. And we have expertise in the process of becoming a municipal light plant. We can assist. We can help a town like Southampton, become a municipal light plant. Hoyle Gas and Electric and Shell have been very judicious in expansion efforts, meaning that we don't, we're not looking for quantity, we're looking for quality. We're looking for towns that geographically make sense to us. That's why we've been, looking into Easthampton, and that's why it also makes sense with Southampton because of your geographic location next to Holyoke's pre-existing plant that's out there and network and the connectivity through these neighboring towns. And we have extensive experience. This is my second project. Launching Whip City Fiber was a great achievement, and I learned a lot from it. And now I've launched my second project here at South Hadley Electric, and both projects have been successful. And Holyoke Gas and Electric has had numerous project management experiences, and Tim's going to talk about that in a minute. Yeah, so next slide, please. So Tim, I'm going to let you take it away here.
Sure. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah.
What you're looking at here is really just a circle representation of our fiber optic network that is centered around Holyoke. And all those gray boxes are facilities that we own, mostly substations. That's where our original fiber ring was built 25 years ago, was to connect up substations and city buildings. And from there, we expanded out to support institutional business, higher education, and even smaller business. And so that original ring was the purpose of connecting the city of Holyoke from an interconnectivity perspective, simply because at the time Verizon and the cable companies did not want to build anything for us. And if they did, they expected Holyoke to front all the costs and then bear all the burden of the monthly subscriber fees on top of all that. And so at the time, there was a cost analysis done on would it make sense. And so between the school system, the city of Holyoke proper, and Holyoke Gas and Electric as a utility, we kind of spearheaded the whole thing to get it built. And so from that ring and then adding customers, we also had a need a few years into it to get connectivity, redundant connectivity to and from Springfield. And so that purple leg there is really is a ring provided by Crown Castle, where we have IRU, multi-decade IRU for fibers on that ring that connect to our gateways in Springfield. So one is at 1500 Main Street. You may know it as Tower Square. We have a major facility, and there's major carriers in and out of there. As you can see, we connect to a number of carriers at that facility. That's in the lower portion of the Springfield bubble there, the lower right. And then the upper right is 1 Federal Street. So you guys may have heard of that in your travels. So that's a major carrier hotel for Western Mass. We're colo in the Lumen, who used to be Level 3 and Williams. We're coloed right in their Class A data center there. We have 3 ring spurs that flow in and out of there. Obviously, our main ring that comes back in through Chicopee and Holyoke, and then another lobe that we use to connect direct to Chicopee through 5 College Net. And then so we back into Chicopee, and we've got a number of facilities there. Chicopee has a project very similar to South Hadley's, where they're building fiber to the home everywhere. They've built out POPs. They've got a pretty large project going on, adding customers at a rapid rate, just like South Hadley is. And so we've got a couple of nodes where we've dropped in, and we've built in automatic ring protection for both Chicopee and South Hadley. You can see the lobes there extend over into South Hadley, and we have a major commercial customer where we're using a 5 College Net to extend up into Hadley and get a couple of strands up there into Northampton. And as we work back down around the top of the ring there over to the left, you see Northampton and Easthampton. We've got 2 strands there on IRU that we're supporting a financial customer with automatic ring protection there. As Sean mentioned, the town of Easthampton is working with us, and we're going to be dropping an internet connection into town hall as a start, just to get internet service in. And the town is looking to move their network away from the school's network, because our understanding is they're combined. And so Bob Liswell is helping helping them kind of work through all of that. But the network overall has evolved over 20 years. We started out at it was what was called OC3, so 155 megabits, and then moved to gigabit. And around 2014, we moved to 10 gigabit throughout. And over the last 2 years, we've been migrating to 100 gigabit, and we've lit up over the last couple of months our first couple of 100 gig links. And we anticipate that to just roll on through the next 24 months. So whoever thought years ago we'd be talking about 100 gig, and that's what we need to satisfy the need. And of course, we're happy to do it. Those are good issues to have and manage with. But in general, that's the network overall. I don't know if there's any questions. You know, we're fully redundant. We have our own IP address space. We do IPv4 and IPv6. Up there over to the right where our providers are, we install blanket DDoS. So if you guys have ever heard of distributed denial of service attacks, they can cripple ISPs and cripple an entire networks in an instant. We have an umbrella threat prevention system that's active and thwarts and mitigates real-time internet attacks. So we call that an umbrella protection because every connection that we put into an internet provider, we also put in a threat defense appliance. So every customer that's connected to HG&E's internet service is protected by that threat umbrella system. And it's particularly important for school systems and town administrations, because over the past year and a half to 2 years, they've been major targets of ransomware. And some of the ways these things begin is with infected machines on the inside launching out to botnets that in turn launch high volume attacks on the unsuspecting victims. So these threat defense systems can't be underestimated. They sit there in the dark and no one sees them, but it's really important to talk about those types of things when you're talking about doing business with a particular internet service provider. Is there any questions on the network or how we're constructed or how we do things?
No, I mean, I'm looking and realizing, you know, this is a really robust network, and I see the value in what you're providing here. I mean, the redundancy in the rings, and it appears like if we were to go with you, we wouldn't have any issues over time because you have so much redundancy built into your system.
We try to build diversity. We have issues like everybody else. We don't, you know, there's only so much we can control, right? We can control everything that's inside of our network. What happens outside of our network is still a free-for-all, right? But we do make best efforts. So we try to build a redundancy in it. And so, you know, those aren't circles there. Those are real. If there's a break in fiber, it's automatic ring protection. It's sub-second. You might see a little blip in the video stream, or you might hear some clipping in your phone call. That's the failover working, right? Like much like they're doing with electricity now and reclosure systems where they're feeding neighborhoods with 2 feeds. You get a blip in the lights, right? Oh, what was that? Oh, it used to be an outage, right? That flicker of lights was the precursor to, oh, the lights are going out. But now it's the switch over and the failover happening. It's very similar with how internet networks should be constructed, in my opinion. We also use all carrier grade equipment. So from the likes of Juniper Networks, Cisco systems, that's all we use in our IP routing environment. Sienna for our carrier Ethernet transport. So all of our nodes back into the network are all Sienna transport, and then our access nodes are either Calix or Nokia. It's all top of the line equipment. We spend a tremendous amount of money on training, on staffing, on personnel, and depth of knowledge and experience. It's very important to us that we have a deep bench that understands what's going on in this network.
Yeah. And Dan, I'd just like to add to what Tim said. This slide is so important because South Hadley Electric had to make a decision of who to go to for this type of wholesale network services. And we had all these options. Westfield was one of them. There was other options. We chose Holyoke because of this slide, because of the unparalleled investment in their network, and more importantly, the redundancy in their network was why we went with them.
So can I ask a question? So it sounds like Holyoke Gas and Electric is the network operator. And can you explain a little bit then where South Hadley comes into? Are you considered the internet service provider that you're dealing directly with the towns or with customers, or like how does that actually work? So it sounds like what he just said makes total sense in terms of network operations. But
Sure.
is Holyoke Gas and Electric the actual internet service provider? How does that look? What does that look like?
Tim, do you want to answer or do you want me to answer?
I mean, it's really it's a complete partnership between Shell and HG&E. So I can see where there's like a little blurry line, but there is a very distinct line in our operations. Yes, HG&E is the upstream ISP and network operator. So whatever equipment you install in Southampton will be monitored by our central monitoring system. And what will happen though is Shell is really, South Hadley is really the construction experts. They have expertise in fiber network building that is far beyond here at HG&E. Most of our fiber build in Holyoke we've done through contractors. We have an outside plant supervisor on staff, but all of our fiber building happens through third-party contractors, where it's different with Shell in the respect that all of that stuff is really in-house. They have contractors actually come and do the work, but they manage the entire process from a network build perspective. They're also very good at installing customers, turning up customers, and being that customer support and frontline support. So Shell will be the ISP of record from the town subscriber perspective. Your bill will say Fibersonic on it. You will call and it will say, this is Fibersonic. Then in turn, South Hadley will contract with HG&E for internet service, network operator, network management, dispatch services, and we'll work hand in hand on if it becomes larger than one customer or a few customers, maybe it's a larger network issue. So we need to get higher levels of escalation and expertise involved. Does that help clarify the?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, that was partially one of the questions that I had was, is any of this network, any substantial part of this network leased from other companies, Windstream or other folks, that, Crown Castle that actually own the fiber and you guys are leasing it, or whether you guys have done the construction, either, trenched your own fiber or hung it on poles.
Outside of Holyoke, we generally don't lease that much fiber. We don't, we prefer to use IRUs over multiple decades. So inside city limits Holyoke, we own everything. We own the poles, we own all the fiber, we own all the substations, we own all that, we own everything.
Yeah.
Outside of city limits, so if you look at the Springfield bubble, for example, that's Crown Castle fiber around that ring. And we have a multi-decade IRU with Crown Castle for 2 fibers around that ring. So basically, and as part of an arrangement, a master services agreement that we have with Crown Castle, because we supply them with 72 strands of fiber border to border in Holyoke. So as part of that deal, we were able to secure 2 strands around their ring for a very long time. To answer your question, we don't really like to lease or even take lit circuits. So this is all dark fiber here. The 5 College Net is a similar type of arrangement that Chicopee made with 5 College Net for carrying 5 College Net fibers through the city of Chicopee. So they have strands up to 1 federal. Chicopee, through our partnership, allows us to use those fibers to light up their 100 gig feed into Chicopee. So it's really about partnerships and managing dark fiber assets that we have access to within the region, and try to stay away from short-term lease agreements and or lit services. We like to light everything ourselves. So everything hanging off of all this stuff, like the two big locations in Springfield, those are places we pay thousands of dollars a month to lease rooms or large amounts of space in those facilities to get the Class A power, the backup generator, the diverse power entrances, the diverse fiber entrances, all those key things that you need to make it real, but we don't own the building, right? So, but outside of the city limits of Holyoke, that's what we have to manage. So, and Chicopee is a very similar thing. South Hadley is a very similar thing where they've got network locations, hardened network locations that they've built out. So they allow us access in to drop our equipment in, build our transport infrastructure in and out of there, using their fiber infrastructure, build fiber where we need to. So for example, to complete the loop in South Hadley, we had to build a span across the Route 116 bridge from Holyoke into South Hadley so we could complete their ring. That was about a 1.5-year process. Bob Liswell spearheaded that whole thing, got it done, and ring protection was built into South Hadley. So that's really how we approach things. And when we look at Southampton, we've got a number of areas that we can kind of slice and dice of how we feed Southampton off of our network. So we've already got existing fiber down the county road. We've already got existing fiber down in the Rock Valley. There's an opportunity we have with Easthampton, maybe ring protect out through that side and through the north, through Northampton and back down in the north side of Holyoke. There's a lot of opportunity with existing resources and where our current assets are to help Southampton. Did that answer your question?
It did. Yes, thank you.
I just have a follow-up question for the IRUs. Are you, I don't know much about about IRUs and unrestricted use of fiber dark fiber, but is there any type of limitation of how many, like how long you get to do this for, or are there agreements in place?
Yes, there are agreements in place. So we have a 20-year, we're coming close to the end of it, and then basically their renewal every decade. And the fiber assets aren't going anywhere. They're, as a matter of fact, Crown Castle, for the 72 strands that we carry through Holyoke now, they're over 3/4 loaded, and they keep ordering more fiber. So those assets and the companies have turned over 3 times. It was originally FiberTech, then went Sedera, and then Crown Castle, and those agreements have carried through those acquisitions.
Wow.
Yeah, I was just trying to think if there was any risk in the way that this is built out with that regard.
Understood. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because if you look in Springfield, there's really the 5 college net that comes out of there, right? So we're not reliant on a single carrier coming out of Springfield, even though we're lighting the fiber ourselves. We've got different paths and different fiber providers feeding us in and out of our gateways and back into our network.
I like that you mentioned that in this picture, I can see how you could loop through Southampton. So we have that redundancy as well. I mean,
Certainly.
I see it as an advantage that you offer. It happens to be because I think Easthampton chose to go with you guys is one of the reasons, but which is a good thing for Southampton if we were to go with you, because we have 2 bordering towns, right? So
right, exactly. Makes it from a logistical perspective, it's much easier than, for example, the hill towns, because with the hill towns, the final destination generally is 1 Federal Street. Well, how do you get there? Well, it's either MBI or Verizon or one of these. And so the hill towns have to contend with dealing with thousands of dollars a month in recurring lease fees to get the lit services from Springfield up into their town. So this is certainly an advantage that Southampton has over others that are just even a little further out than you.
Right. And just to add, South Hadley has our own fibers directly into 1 Federal, because when we built the network for MBI through South Hadley, we own that network and they have an IRU with us, and our ownership rights go directly into the POP in Springfield, which is a huge advantage. for us. And we're going to be connected to Holyoke in 3 locations now, coming up across the river, across the bridge, and then another one through Front Street in Chicopee. So we've built our network with that in mind, and our, indefeasible right of use ownership rights are very powerful when it comes to this.
Question. We have fiber in town already. I'm not sure. I think it's NBI or.
It's MBI.
Yeah, and we're linked into the town hall, and I think there's a couple of. I'm not sure if they're hooked up yet or not, but the fire department, possibly the police department. I don't think the school, Kim, but.
There's fiber in the school that's MBI, but we're not using it.
Yeah, and we never did at town hall either. Anything that could be done with that?
Bob, you want to talk about that? I mean, Bob has a lot of experience with this.
It's a good question, Art. We're actually bringing our own into town. MBI is kind of handing off, looking for your business. So basically, if you went with MBI for your internet connection or service through their fiber from their handoff in that area, you'd basically have to find a team to support that, like what Tim is saying and how we work together. So for us, in harmony with Holyoke, it's a very strong support solution. And the MBI solution was to probably, get to like the clerk's office and get to the police department for PSAP. And this way the state 911, is connected that way. So it's all part of the MBI backbone, but, we just have our own, and it comes with our service, our support, and our professionalism.
Yeah,
I have approached that question, Art, with regard to MBI directly. When we were building out Leverett, MBI had come through the main drag in town and attached. And so they had done all the make ready, and Leverett came through about a year and a half later or whatever, and wanted to attach like 9 miles in the same location. So they went to MBI and said, hey, can we use some of your fiber, or can we lash to your fiber, or can we do something where if we maintain the fiber for that 9 miles that we're overlapping? And it was absolutely no, where there's no fiber sharing, there's no overlashing. You guys, as a matter of fact, it got so heated that I think MBI ended up reimbursing Leverett for the additional make ready costs, because MBI had known when they put that cable up that Leverett had plans to build. And so it kind of came back at them, because it cost Leverett more money in that 9 miles of make ready because there was less room on the poles. And so these are the challenges that you run into, particularly when there's multiple third parties on the poles.
A typical state operation. One day I sort of woke up and some guy's knocking on the door saying, hey, we got a fiber hookup for you. You ready to go? And you're absolutely right, Bobby. We just have it hooked up to the town clerk, who has the direct feed to Boston. It's kind of a shame, all that effort and all that, money and so on and so forth, and it just sits there basically idle. But typical, state type operation.
Yeah, and Art, just to let you know, there's a contractor that does the work on the MBI network. I think it's called Local Links now. So they've seen changes and things like that. And we kind of knew that if we were to get into this, we're going to do it right. We're going to do it solid. We're going to team up with somebody who understands our concern and the quality of service we want to bring to people. So being fiber rich, equipment, the investment in equipment, you're going to see a difference on what we're offering versus another ISP for you guys. There's a team that comes to you: Holyoke Gas and Electric, South Hadley Electric Light Department, Fibersonic. We have techs, we have everything to pretty much make this a success and make it right, and make sure that wherever you're going to grow, there's room for growth. It's pretty much an industry standard to plan for things that are important for, you know, a town like yours. Future growth is always important, because when you go to do that initial investment, you want to make sure you include, it could be, you know, some strands for a new school network or a building coming on down the line, maybe the two-way radio network or public safety network or facilities network that somebody had tossed out to save money, or in the schools for, you know, some of these programs on energy efficient, you know, energy efficiency that pays itself off. All this IP address equipment needs to be connected, needs to be supported. And it was great that MBI did build out what they did, but, you know, we pretty much provide our own with a great solution.
And it's really unfortunate, because they could have gone after like a product like a local town land. So interconnecting all the town buildings together on a common network that wouldn't necessarily have to leave the town, and they could do it at a really cheap rate, like a few $100 a month. But they didn't go down that road. It was all everything, get everything back to one Fed, get everything back to one Fed. And unfortunately, the hard reality is if you build a fiber to the home network in Southampton, part of that will be overbuilding all that MBI stuff, because you're going to want to hook up your town buildings. You're going to want to hook up your library, your fire department, your schools. While you're building the stuff out, why wouldn't you? And simply because you can build those and connect all of those locations for a one-time cost, right? Once you install it, now you're not paying recurring monthly network fees for your town buildings and all these different things that you may or may not have to pay for today.
And I'm sure you're going to get to the sort of like what that, you know, sort of what the cost would look like eventually and especially to the, you know, what it looks like to be a subscriber, say at home. I do know that because of the layers that MBI seemed to have, where there were, this reason I sort of was like, okay, who's a network operator and who's the ISP? Because the ISP has to carry network operator costs, which drove the cost of the fiber of the MBI network. It kind of it wasn't feasible. It wasn't that we didn't want the fiber. It was that didn't appear to be a feasible way. The cost per megabit on the MBI network is extremely high compared to other fiber costs that you could get, say, in the eastern part of the state. It wasn't comparable. And so the pricing model and the way that they laid it out in their business model kind of drove, in my opinion, drove them out of business.
I couldn't agree more. It's unfortunate, like you said before, Art, it's unfortunate what happened with that, because it was really a noble goal, right? To interconnect the state. It was a noble goal, and a lot more could have been done with it, certainly.
I guess just to follow on a little bit to that, you guys were talking about how HG&E has, you know, services that are in our area and everything like that. You did kind of put an emphasis on underground, you know, installations and everything like that. Do you expect, because I just making a bold assumption here, but like a lot of the poles, especially, you know, right down College Highway and stuff like that, are probably owned by Eversource. I don't know if that's true, but like, is a circumstance like that, do you guys run into issues in terms of, you know, attachment rights, you know, make ready delays, anything like that? Or would you anticipate that?
Bobby.
So what we're doing, if it's okay to use the model of what we're providing with Easthampton, is we're providing them with design engineering, and that'll actually lead to their build list of materials, which will behind that, we'll put the network cost. All these are being put together as a package, and that is a walkout process, and, you know, an engineering design and calculation of inventory and materials. After that process and having that data will allow you to basically take the next step and go for your pole permit application, which will then actually project, okay, your starting numbers. I think right now I just did some quick stuff, but, you know, for this meeting, but you got about 80 miles of roadway and 10 miles of private drive. So it's similar to Easthampton, and that's why we you know, with them, we're going to start out with a walkout design so we can start putting hard numbers behind it. Because once you start getting into pole applications, it could be millions of dollars, because the pole could need to be changed because the age of the pole, it could be rotted, or there's not enough room for stranding it up there and run your cable plant. So that is a step that basically gets identified after, we get done like the walkout and design, because now you're honing in on what your scope is and what it is up front instead of kind of taking a hit in the rear as it's going on. So planning for that comes with a scope from Eversource and pretty much saying, look at these poles have been put in within a 5-year period. You have, an approval for attachment there because of the space. But on these poles, they're still, 40 years old and they all need to be changed out. So, you could see a fee of a couple $100 all the way to, over $1,000. So, if you're being told, for example, it was 500 last year and a provider went in before the MLP, well, guess what? Now that MLP has to pay probably about $700 or $800 because now a new pole has to be installed. So there's steps to it. And what you want to do is make sure that when you have your package put together ahead of time, you go out for pricing, you go out and find out, hey, how long is the material going to take to get into our town? The ISP that we're going to start working with, what do they have for stock? Can we get commercial customers going earlier than later? Point-to-point connections. So there's a very big benefit to going out and getting that design and engineering first than just saying, hey, you can put your pilot together once you have that, what it's going to be, and how many subscribers you're going to hook up and how many fiber hoods you'll be pretty much, identifying. Because once you pick a technology and once you get, right away, you really want to have your game at 100% for your scope so you can get customers hooked up. Because once you start building out and once you get that pathway up there, after all that hard work, your phones will be, pretty much ringing. You're not building it out quick enough. And that's a good thing. So, at the end of the day, solid step processes with engineering and design is very important, especially when you're going for grant money, because if you don't identify that number correctly, how are you going to pay for it?
Right.
A question, it seems like there's always negotiation here as far as polls and, do you do the negotiation or do we have to do that?
No, we have resources. It's not just us, but we also use another subcontractor for design and engineering to make sure that we don't miss quantities at all. And basically, we deal with Eversource. We're a customer of Eversource and they're a customer of ours. Same thing with Hoyle Gas and Electric. So not just with power and fiber, but, the relations with Eversource, working with them and making sure that, the paperwork gets submitted, it's seen, it comes back to us correctly for review. You're all part of this process. It's exciting. But as soon as
we do the work is the answer, yes. We would do all that work on your behalf if we were your project manager, correct?
So what we really would be going after, hopefully via a grant, is the engineering design, having that solid before we go after the poles and whatever else. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I would start with that because that's how Easthampton is doing it. That's how we did it. Once you have that engineering and design, let's call it $140,000 that it cost you. You now can, with some certainty, forecast your cost, what it's going to cost you to do the entire town.
Yeah. Thank you.
your MLP status will, is really important through this process.
And it'll also help you project where you want to build. Like if there's easy neighborhoods that are aerial, that are close, and there's a lot of interest, maybe those get built first. So your revenue, you start generating revenue quicker, like Bob was saying. And then, but to make no mistake about it, the make ready process and the poll applications is definitely the most lengthy and time consuming part of the entire project.
Yeah.
I spent 3 years project managing a fiber build out all outside plant in central PA. And I handed that project to somebody else after 3 years and moved into a different role, and it's still going.
But it's a fact of life, right? If
It
you get the design done, and then you build up your business analysis, and you get some sort of sense in the community what the interest is like, and you can build a business case, then you start moving forward from that, right? But it definitely starts all with that design, because you have no idea of what you have or what you need without the design.
Yeah.
You know, just a side note, South Hadley Electric does all of our own make-ready work. We have our own line crews. It makes it a more simple process, but
Yeah, I bet.
you know, but we do have the expertise. Yeah, it's good.
You said the word line crews. So let's say one of the fibers breaks. Would someone from Holyoke come over, or someone from South Hadley? Who comes
That
and
would be-
fixes it?
Yep, that would be South Hadley Electric. So we
Okay.
are your ISP entity. They're basically the network operator. We do everything else: billing, customer service, maintenance, and repair. That's us.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious, because we got the gas from Holyoke. So.
It's an interesting setup there with Southampton, certainly.
Yeah.
So along those same lines, if something happens within town, then we would be billed for that work? How does that work? How does that work for like if something like somebody hits a pole in town of Southampton and the fiber's down, like how does that get repaired? Like I understand dispatched and repaired, but
Yeah.
where does that cost fall?
So great question. So for example, Verizon in our town owns, a portion of the poles. If it's a Verizon pole, they come out and repair it. If it's an Eversource pole, they come out and repair it. We would be contacted to come out and rehang your fiber optics, which we would do. But the primary pole replacement will be done by the owner of the pole, which is in most cases in your town, Eversource.
Interesting you bring that up though with pole hits, because we've seen a lot of them, right? Between Sean, Bob, and I, we have seen a lot of pole hits over decades of time. One fascinating thing about this fiber optic cable, it usually survives the pole hit.
Yes.
When it takes a beat and is on the pole replacement, generally it's in the way of the pole replacement, and oftentimes the electric crews have to cut the fiber in order to get the pole back in. So oftentimes, because this stuff is super strong and it's amazingly rigid, and so generally, unless it's really a direct sever, it's very difficult to take out a fiber cable. And generally speaking, they'll sustain a pole hit. As a matter of fact, we may see during storms, we'll see an outage, or not an outage, but we'll hear of a pole hit overnight, but we won't experience the outage till the morning, because the repair crews are there in the morning to make the necessary repairs, right? Pull the old cables and an old pole out, and auger and dig a new hole for the pole, drop the pole in, all that stuff, all that fiber. To the pole guys and the electric guys, that fiber cable is just a nuisance. Cut it and get it out of the way so we can get power restored.
But Kim, we do have technicians. We have a staff of mostly Comcast technicians that I stole from Comcast. Bobby's team, they're excellent, and they would be dispatched to hang any fiber that needed to be hung.
In those situations, and I just want to paint some reality here. In those situations, it's a pecking order, right? So it's the electric service, and then the phone company. There's a pecking order on how this stuff gets repaired. So generally, crews are there, fiber crews are on site pretty quick, but oftentimes they'll have to wait for others to do their work in order for them to complete theirs.
Yeah.
Next slide.
Just a question, and maybe I'm getting ahead of things, but I was curious about your knock operations and such. Like, is that in-house? Do you guys outsource that to a separate group?
No, 100% Holyoke Gas and Electric. Our knock is down at 1 Canal Street in Holyoke.
Okay.
And it's 24/7. We're on like sub-minute response. Everybody's got full remote access. You know, I'd say 90% of our workforce is within 25 minutes of the network in general.
Gotcha. Okay.
David, the only addition to that is for the customer who has in-home issues, we do have a vendor that who is outstanding, that is a subcontractor in Integrity. When I was in Westfield, I wasn't real happy with the provider that we had. We went out, researched, we hired this company, Integrity. They're amazing. They'll at times spend 45 minutes on the phone with a customer, just helping them get through a printer problem. That's not even, you know, our issue, but they'll take the time to work on that customer's issue. And they're also, you know, we use Calyx gear, and they're all network or Calyx certified techs. They get trained on Calyx, and 90%, even I'd say higher, are all resolved by this help desk. And we monitor their performance, we monitor their stats, their queue times, their response times, and their resolutions. And anytime a ticket comes in, each of us get it on our phone, so we see it in real time.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
Dave, if I could add, and the whole group, you know, we would love to have you come down, look at our operations, our streaming device center, our inventory, how we roll the culture out to subscribers. We're also providing phone service. We are becoming a CLEC in Massachusetts, hopefully by July 1st, if our paperwork gets in and, you know, and reviewed in a timely fashion. That's out on the state side. So open door to everybody who's on this committee to come out and visit us. So just so you know, the invite's there.
I bet everybody else knows, but what's a CLEC?
So basically, we are a phone company like Verizon. So we're a competitive local exchange carrier for phone service. We can hand off a plain old telephone line to the home. We found that to be a big benefit here in South Hadley. We actually, I think, kind of underestimated it. It was on our project plan in the 5-year build to do it the third year, and we actually did it right after our first year.
Oh, wow. So you'd be able to offer that type of phone as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, we have it. Go ahead, Sean.
Oh, no, go ahead.
We have it on our website now. So you can see the unlimited package and the basic package. It's very affordable. It's, and in most cases for residents, it's probably half the cost in Verizon. Even though we live in a cellular, you know, technology world right now, that home phone is pretty important for people who have alarms, who rely on a landline and things like that. And, you know, just real briefly, so we can get into the next slide or any other questions, we can white label this to the MLP in Southampton. So, you know, even though the billing's going out there and everything else, it can be whatever, if it becomes Southampton.net, just like Leverett or Shutesbury or Easthampton, we can white label the bills, the training, all that under whatever the MLP decides to name itself or the program. So just letting you know, we want to come with options. We want to make sure that we're satisfying your business plan as you guys develop it.
So are there any more questions on this slide from our team?
Spending quite a bit of time on that slide.
Yeah. All right. How about we move on to the next one? Maybe.
Okay, so this is just giving you a quick snapshot of HG&E's residential broadband experience. It started back, you know, in 2013 with the town of Leverett. We got a phone call from them. Hey, we're building a fiber network. We need a network operator. We need a project manager. We need a project manager. When we're like, well, we've never project managed a fiber to the home network. Yeah, but you guys, we hear from everybody. You guys got tons of fiber experience. You ought to know how to. And so we kind of met in the middle, and that's really where our broadband residential experience started. So we're in our 9th year on that. And as you can see, go down the list, we've kind of expanded it along the way, and there's more opportunities. But what I want to go back to what Sean kind of led with, and that is we don't try to take on too much all at once. So it's really one town at a time, and get them onboarded, get everybody comfortable, get it set with our operations, work all the kinks out, and then kind of move on, and work on the next one. You know, collectively, South Hadley and Holyoke believe taking on too much is certainly not in our best interest, nor the interest of the folks that we're trying to serve. So I just wanted to point that out. Any questions on that slide?
You know, this was kind of a question I asked of Westfield too, but like, what's the benefit for you guys for helping out all these other towns? What do you guys get out of it?
Economic development. It's revenue generation, the ability to invest back into our network infrastructure, as well as hire staff, train staff. It's really all about economic development. That's really the goal of MLPs in general.
Mm-hmm.
Is to employ and educate qualified staff and personnel.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And Dan, I'll just add to that. I mean, really, you help reduce our costs. What we're kind of doing is building a multi-town cooperative, and if we're all sharing in the cost to pay for the network ring, the wholesale services Tim provides through HG&E, our services to do billing, customer service, and in-home installations, the overall cost to all of us comes down, and that's what it's about for us. And we can hire more resources to serve all of our needs. So it's really a better network than paying for shareholders to get, you know, increased shares. You know, you're just paying to expand the network and get better service. You know, and it does benefit our customers, our ratepayers. As you know, the more towns that we add, it does help. We don't want to add too many so that we can't, you know, become overwhelmed and can't serve them. But if we strategically pick a couple of neighboring communities, it works out for us.
So, does someone else have something?
I was just going to say that on the follow up on Sean, the economic, if you listen to all the activities that Sean just listed off, they're all economic development. Right, they're all a project like this drives so much activity and so much it's so resource intensive. It employs so many people because it takes a lot to get it done. So it's really an economic, the MLP becomes this kind of economic engine, so to speak.
Yeah, and I could see how it could be beneficial to people in town for those reasons, you know. So that was, I guess you'll probably get into, you know, pricing and how that works in later slides. I was just kind of curious, you know, about that. But if you're going to talk about it later, I won't ask.
Well, I didn't really include pricing, but I can talk about it right now, Dan.
Okay.
I can tell you that, you know, our price right now is the $74.95. We give a $4.95 break at $70. It's very similar to what Westfield offers. You know, creating the price for a town like Southampton would depend on your cost structure. You know, maybe it's $80. I don't know. You know, each town has to determine what the best price is for them to pay back their capital investment. So we would work with you to develop that. I have a lot of experience. I've developed the pricing for Westfield initially in the first launched fiber hoods. We did something called 59 for life, $59 for a gig for life, which was amazing. We stopped doing that after the first fiber hood, but for obvious reasons. But yeah, pricing can be structured to account for your capital cost, and your capital cost will be determined when we have your design. Once you have your design, we know, okay, it's going to cost you $12 million or whatever the cost is. You need to make this much money, therefore we need to have this take rate, therefore we need to have this pricing. And there's a bit of an art and a bit of a science to it, but we would absolutely be your project manager and step you through that. I have a lot of expertise in that. I've done it twice now, and our project is successful. and the Westfield project is successful. And so we would ensure that your project would be successful.
Not to sound like gloom and doom here, but I'm kind of curious, has there been any experience where any these MLPs have gone belly up in the state? And if that happened, what would happen?
Sure. So there's a white paper out on Burlington Telecom, right? Burlington, Vermont launched a project and they really lost a lot of money. I've read it 3 times before I launched my project here. And the thing is point of entry to market. So when you enter this market, the timing in which you do so makes a difference. When Westfield entered the market back in 2014, it was more difficult. The take rates were harder to achieve in the beginning. Now, when we entered the market in 2018, that point of entry was easier. There's more knowledge about streaming. The facts are this, that nationally, projects like this are taking a 50% market share from incumbent providers like Comcast. It's a fact. It's been proven through the broadband communities. Where there's underserved communities in the hill towns, they're taking 80 to 90% market share. Their prediction is that ultimately fiber will just overtake coaxial incumbent providers completely, because in the next 3 to 5 years, they are not going to be able to provide service. It's just their plant is not being invested in. It's not keeping pace with the growth of the Internet of Things. And so there is less doom and gloom than there was. The risks when we launched in Westfield were greater. The risks when we launched 3 years ago were there, but they're not as great. And now I would tell you, as we are approaching a 50% take rate in just 2 years, that our business plans, most of them are set to 30%, right? So if you're earning 50%, you're going to pay back that capital in a shorter window than you originally planned.
John, you mentioned a point of entry, but could you speak a little bit? I saw in a bubble back in the beginning of the presentation about your sort of sales and marketing, because as you know, Charter is in town, Spectrum, and people are going to have a choice. And so I think that is a hurdle that it's a reality, and people have to understand. Again, they do understand about streaming and working at home and doing school from home surely brought to light some of the struggles with home internet service, but the choice to pay a little bit more and what you're getting and how you handle that marketing and outreach.
Yeah, great question. This is something that I pride myself in. My degree is in marketing. The staff that I hired has a marketing background. I have a marketing manager. In Westfield, we initially utilized a marketing agency that helped them get off the ground. I didn't use them here because the cost was great, but it's the marketing is important. You have to do grassroots community marketing. You have to have yard signs. You have to have email campaigns. You have to have social media campaigns. You have to have direct mail campaigns. But I will tell you that, believe it or not, it's not a huge challenge to sell this product. People are begging us to come to their neighborhood. And so there's this huge pent up demand for fiber optic internet bandwidth. And we find ourselves dealing with, we just can't build it fast enough. And so it's a great marketing problem to have. And the only problem that we have that's really important to understand is that this is target marketing at its best, because you can't do global marketing with TV ads when you're not everywhere. You're in small pockets. So if you're doing global advertising, people get frustrated, right? Because well, you're advertising, but you're not here. So you have to really get good at this guerrilla grassroots target marketing, which we've perfected, and our take rates show that. The Spry Point services that Westfield uses and we use here, which I worked on the development of with Spry Point at Westfield, is a great tool. It works on interest in fiberhoods, and it collects the interest per fiberhood, and that dictates where you go to construct next. And that's another great marketing technique to draw interest. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah. I think, Dan, if you go to that last slide. Yeah, so this is our last slide, and I'll just conclude that we understand the difficult decisions you're faced with to be tasked with figuring this out as a committee. It's very difficult. We want you to know you don't have to do it alone. You have us if you're interested in working with us. We are here to help. We have Sheldon Hoyok Gas and Electric has a model that reduces all your customers' costs versus increasing earnings. We talked about that. You get 2 local reputable utilities with significant project management experience with us. I believe Hoyok has the largest regional MLP transport ring around. I don't know of anybody that can compare. And HG&E has decades of service to you in Southampton. But I'll just tell you that, thank you for the opportunity. Even if, you're slow in the process, what I would tell you is the first thing you want to do is take action to become an MLP. Get it on a referendum, get it on a ballot, and that's a 2-year process. Easthampton did it. And once you get that ball rolling, you continue to do your evaluation. And that's the way Easthampton did it. Their model has worked pretty well.
A question, we see that there's a state grant available coming up. I think it's March through April. I think it's 250,000, I think is the max. Does it behoove us thinking about going after something like that, or is that just too early in the process? Do you have to have an MLP in place, et cetera, et cetera?
No, I would absolutely, Art, go after that. And, we can help you write a narrative if you want. We can help you with that. I would try and go after that if you can. And that can help you get, for example, design costs, so I would say yes. And, we have someone we work with that's a consultant that monitors these things and helps guide us on whether or not to apply or not. We can tap into that resource when need be.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Does anybody have any other questions at this point in time? If not, we want to thank you all very much for speaking tonight with us. Thank you, and I think we'll excuse you from the rest of the meeting. That's okay.
Yeah, Sean, Bobby, and Tim, thanks so much for taking the time to come out and enlighten us as to what a partnership with you may look like. So thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you to the committee. Thank you, everyone.
Yep, thanks.
Great meeting you all. Take care.
Have a great night.
You too.
You too. Yeah. Well,
All right. Does anybody have anything else that they need to discuss this evening, or are we ready to adjourn? All right. Hearing nothing. David.
Yeah, I was going to say the one thing we had thrown out, I think at our last meeting, if we have time and wanted to run through the document that Art had put together, that I added.
Right. Yeah.
Just for the tech support, those overall requirements. I'd be happy to run through that with Art and see if there's any additions or anything else that we want to throw in there.
Yeah, let's do it.
Or we can save it for a rainy day. I'm not pushing this on anyone.
Is that, I just want to ask I think it's a great idea, but I want to ask a point of order. Do we have to, is that a change on our agenda, or is it under other business? Or
Actually, you're right. I did not put that on the agenda because that was the only thing I thought we were doing tonight was the, so thank you. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah, no worries. It's a good call, Ken. All right, rainy day it is. So
All right.
next time we'll meet, we'll run through that.
Yeah.
Just a quick comment. I don't know about the rest of you, but I was pretty impressed tonight, and especially getting in bed with Holyoke Gas and Electric. Having lived in Holyoke for 30 years, Holyoke has all sorts of problems, but fiber is not one of them. And then they just, you know, are incredible that they got this way back when. I remember I was living there when they first started, and they have a president of the HG&E, Mr. Lavelle. I have to say he's a UMass guy, good electrical engineer, and very impressive what HG&E has done. The only problem I have with HG&E, I wish they could run a gas line up Crooked Ledge Road, but I'm never.
Yeah, well, but we're probably not going to get anywhere with those things until they take the moratorium off the gas lines. For crying out loud.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
just a clarification. So Easthampton is definitely going with these guys, not Whip City.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That was when I started down the road when I originally contacted Holyoke Gas and Electric at the request of the committee to do the presentation tonight. And started getting down the road and talking to Sean and whatever. Yeah, it came out that they're the ones that were doing Easthampton.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess I left the meeting last week with the assumption that Whip City was pulling on Easthampton, but I don't know why I got that, but okay.
They said they talked to him, but yeah.
And I guess it just was announced officially today. So
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about Northampton? Are they cooked up yet or not?
Well, I'm wondering, I had said at the last meeting that I thought I had heard Easthampton had pulled out of the thought of doing fiber optic themselves. It may have been Northampton. I'll have to see if I can find that article I was reading originally and let you know.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I took the liberty of the presentation that Sean had sent to David and myself, which you saw tonight. I took the liberty of taking that and forwarding it to all of you, so you've got it either in PowerPoint, you know, or a PDF to refer back to.
Yeah, and I'll put up on the My Town Government site.
Yeah.
With the minutes.
Hey, great. And Dan, just one thing, that the Civic Plus one is not up on mytown.gov yet.
Yeah, I you mean the Easthampton Media site?
Right.
I uploaded it to them, so maybe I have to call them for some reason.
Maybe you just remind
No,
Ryan.
I've talked to Jeff, and actually the model for Easthampton Media for both Easthampton and Southampton was originally select board, to cover select board meetings, planning board meetings, and one other group. And what they have found, especially because of COVID, is that all of a sudden now there's this demand from all these other committees, and even if they're not broadcasting them or whatever, to get all that information uploaded and then into their system and posted. It's taking a great deal more time than they ever anticipated. So I'm sure that's the issue.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. A couple times I've had to just remind Ryan to look for it, because he may, with so much coming in, he may not realize that it's there in their queue somewhere. But,
yeah. I will usually, and Judy has caught on too, because it's the way I taught her, is anytime one of us sends them the uplinks from either one of our accounts, we also ask them to confirm that they've got it and were able to download it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So just to clarify, like, what are our next steps? Like, are we convening again? Are we, where are we? Are we gonna do some stuff in parallel where we
It sounds like
with this, what is it? The Committee on Efficiencies, we said we might want to meet with them to bring them in, because there's some financial potentials here. I forget the name of the committee again, but anyway, but I didn't know, like, are we doing, maybe there's several tasks we could do in parallel. The grant is one of them, potentially.
We've got to keep a lookout on the grant when that's announced. I haven't seen it come up yet in terms of opening. So I think
It's supposed to open March 15th. So I would probably expect that they will announce it somewhere around February 15th or 16th,
Yeah.
about a
usually put
month
out-
ahead of time.
They usually put out an information thing just to say this is coming up and, take a look at what it's going to require for applications, et cetera. So
Yeah.
I'll keep an eye out on it too. But if they can do a whole lot of the technical writing for it, that would be wonderful.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It sounds like a great grant coming out on the Ides of March, but that's.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, if it sounds like, we would have to, I mean, does this committee then officially have to recommend and vote to move forward to the select board? I mean, I'm just not quite sure how we navigate the next steps.
I would say so.
That's what we've done with everything else, right? We're kind of an advisory committee to the select board. So
Because the other thing this committee may want to do is it looks like for the ARPA funds that the approving body for any of the ARPA funds to be used as a select board. It looks like the select board will probably be going through the process of actually making an application for any funds to be used through ARPA for any departments or committees or even outside organizations. So the other thing this committee, and I'll just say I'm including myself in this, we may want to look at putting in for some of the use of the ARPA funds to help with this too.
Yeah.
I think, it sounds like Holyoke is going to give us some, not Holyoke, but South Hadley is going to really give us support here on the grant. We just can't let that go by. So, I would certainly get that on the agenda for a future meeting, Dan, just so that we find out who this person is and start feeding whatever information they need and just get this thing up, just like we did for the cybersecurity grant.
I guess my question though is, if we have them help us write the grant, are we kind of tied in with them? Is that like kind of down selecting to them at that point?
Well, I would hope it would be similar to the group in Connecticut that we did the cybersecurity with, right? There was no guarantees there either.
Right, exactly. And I can clarify that with them.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I think that they might recognize that might be another, shall we say, feather in their cap of getting us to head that way.
Right.
True.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Then I think what would be the next regularly scheduled meeting would be on the 28th. And I also sent Dan a little reminder that we wanted to have a presentation from one of the other website.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And I sent you some information on that for final site.
Our other favorite topic. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We're getting a lot done here, guys. This is good.
Yeah.
So maybe the next meeting we'll have a website visitor. But yeah, we'll talk about that grant.
Okay. So on the agenda for next time, it'll be further discussion on, if we're looking at, the MLP. I mean, we'd be looking at, at the very least, regardless of anything we do, we'd have to be thinking about how we go forward with MLP. That seemed to be something like we didn't have to put the brakes on or make any other dependent decisions on, that if we were really going to make a recommendation, that this committee could actually recommend that we move forward with that, because that doesn't financially commit us in any way.
Yeah, we'll at the next time we have to meet with the select board, which I think I have to give a presentation to them soon, or a report.
Yeah, we're looking at a list.
Yeah, sometime in March.
Yeah.
Their first meeting in March, which is March 1st.
The 1st of March.
Yes, there we go. Talk about the Ides of March. There we go.
But that would be good timing, really, because if by then we'll know that the grant the state grant is open, hopefully by then, and we'll be able to address that a little bit. And then what you're saying is, we would like to be able to go forward with this grant application when it opens on, the windows, March 15th to April 15th, and select board would say, okay, yeah, we think that's a great idea, go for it. I mean, I think it would be good to have, we need for a large grant, we do want to have select board blessing on that, I think, and to the extent somebody can help us put that grant together, that's great. I mean, I think that's all good timing, so, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll get on their agenda to discuss that, and before the
So on the 28th though, is that the next tech meeting? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we're trying to work the Mondays around the conservation meetings. So if conservation meets first and third, I kind of suggested that, we follow a second and fourth Monday pattern.
Okay.
So then, the fourth Monday is the 28th.
So then we could have the second website company come in, as well as talk about the in-house provider idea that Art was mentioning, right? We can have that both on the agenda.
Yeah, and we can follow up on MLPs too.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Sounds
Great.
good.
Figured out our agenda. That's great.
Sounds good. Well, things are moving, that's for sure. But I think this is, with the grant coming open, we may as well try and go for that, and look at the ARPA money as well. I mean, you got to do 2 or 3 things at the same time, and not everything comes through. So you got to play all the cards. Great.
All right. Anything else, folks?
Not now.
Okay, great. Well, everybody have a wonderful evening, and we'll be speaking again on the 28th, right?
All right.
Thanks everybody.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.